Hello, it's me again. I'm back. You're welcome to my show. You can see this is a high stakes meeting in Alaska with President Bush. Don't talk during I talk. Stop interrupting me, Mr. Dickerson. I'm talking now. Yeah, so Mr. Putin comes to me and gives me the interview, not the USA, because Mr. Putin loves me more than he loves the USA. Of course, Mr. Putin will talk only to me because he's my best friend. Mr. Dickerson is lying. He's not telling the truth. Stop talking during I talk. Stop interrupting my talking. Mr. Dickerson, do you hear me? Stop interrupting. Stop talking to this evil woman. This last advice I give you, last warning.
If he wanted to use that leverage. And that's the thing that makes this so different from all diplomatic summits that I have ever covered in my life.
You can see I'm in camouflage today, liebe Freunde.
Have changed wildly over the past few months.
And watch this genius show.
To be frustrated with Vladimir Putin. Knock it off, Vladimir. Stop it. You know, he said things like that he is personally troubled with the attacks on civilians. With Volodymyr Zelensky.
Maybe I should make an interaction and give on a heart. His heart is very important. Give more hearts. Oh, guck mal, Mr. Putin. Why is he laughing?
Can't hear any sound. Perhaps our viewers can.
Why is he sitting like penguin? I don't know.
All right, this is it is potentially.
This is not the real Putin. Come on, not the Putin I saw or I see every time they show pictures in media where he's not looking that funny.
The narrative going into this, you know, Margaret, I think back to the Cold War meetings between the leaders of these countries, which were in a much different context, but a lot of it was about a story. Who has control of the larger story? Here we see President Trump talking, but we can't hear him.
No. Why he's making this strange face expression?
Very closely, you know,
it's like so.
Superficial. On the other hand, quite important as people tell the
story. He's kind of he feels wrong.
You raise so many great points.
Maybe he feels wrong because he is not the real Putin.
Has changed in the dynamic. You know, we saw the top diplomat from Russia arrive here wearing a CCP, throwback to the Soviet Union shirt, which seemed to be sort of almost a joking reminder.
Joking reminder? Joking.
Russia is not.
I'm joking with my tits. Joking.
Bustling economy. They've become independent from China. That you just mentioned that. So the dynamic here.
Maybe I have to also make a casting, a screencast.
Is this today a reward for bad behavior?
Maybe it's not allowed when I show CBS coverage. Who cares? This is the last chance in my life to be famous.
If you can find a win-win solution,
become famous.
With it. That's why this is being so parsed and so analyzed, even though Russia is in somewhat of a weak position.
So they're driving to special location like Las Vegas. Let's play some casino. In casino.
Ambassador, Margaret mentioned a sweatshirt, which seems quite insignificant. However, because Margaret mentioned it, it's not.
What are you talking about? Like, hello, dude, shaking your hands. Thank you for shaking my hands. I'm also shaking your hands. Good friend. You're a good friend of mine. Let's talk about more tariffs.
He's looking forward to, which is a part of what inspired the move into Ukraine. That is to say,
who has a better style in walking? Watch his walking. What's Putin walking is like he's walking. He's more walking with more confidence.
was the demise
And Trump
of
is
the
walking
Soviet
like
Union. And what does he mean by that?
clumsy.
He's not talking about Soviet communism.
clumsy.
Putin has been known to say, many Russians do, if you're not nostalgic for how we lived in Soviet days, you don't have a heart. But if you want to return to Soviet communism, you don't have a
La la la, here we stay and here we shake our hands forever, peace.
of that empire.
La 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 la.
International border, that
So
huge country, the
what happened here?
USSR, 15 Soviet republics, 350 million people controlled by Moscow. That international border,
Controlled by Moscow.
internal boundaries of the Soviet Union became international borders, and among other things, that separated.
This is a very exclusive content, folks.
Catastrophe that Putin has
If
spent much of his life since the demise of the Soviet Union trying to restore control over all that.
I'm doing special work today for you, so I hope you will reward my work, of course. So
we are waiting on that tape
donate me,
from that meeting. I'm told
donate me please a little money so I can buy me.
Ambassador, just quickly
Oh,
there.
they could buy me Kalashnikov.
And we see there what looked like two translators alongside Witkoff, Rubio, Ushakov, and Lavrov. In the dynamic in the room, how do you expect that this next hour is going to play out?
Well, we saw a similar setup. I was with President Biden when he met with Putin in Geneva in June of 2020.
Yeah, but he's doing some kind of military stuff. Yeah, he's
either side of the two presidents.
salute.
By the way, there was a press conference
Salute greeting
at the start of that meeting, and
that soldiers are doing, or military
reporters asking questions.
Military
Well,
leaders.
we're about to hear, Ambassador, that tape playback. Let's listen in.
I don't understand the show, the jump in between this and this coverage. No, it's like they're drinking coffee there. They're like small talk meeting. It looks like they are really engaged and doing some hard decision. Mr. Putin, Mr. Putin, talk to me, Mr. Putin. Yeah, here, Mr. Putin. Talk to me, Mr. Putin. Answer my questions.
That was what we heard. What happened? Unlikely to go into the answer policy history.
Putin said something.
He said something we
can't make out.
Didn't hear it. One more question for you, Ambassador Sullivan. Can you give us a sense of the rhythm of these conversations you have? Putin has that variable level of English that he understands. There are translators, complicated issues.
Available level. I have also a good available level.
Kind of intermediary translating and mixed messages. Well, he will usually use a translator in a meeting like this. He won't trust his English. He'll want to speak in Russian, and there'll be translation. And that naturally delays things, even if there's simultaneous translation. What Putin is notorious for, and he did this famously with President Obama, he will go off on a soliloquy and just start talking, and it may be difficult.
Putin, make a picture, make a selfie with me. I'm on your side. I'm so on your side.
When I saw Putin dealing with President Biden, Putin was very rude.
I'm so on your side, Putin. Putin.
He wasn't standing
Makes
in the
this.
box and giving a lot of speeches. We'll see how he deals with President Trump here today.
Watch me. I'm a real guy. I'm so strong. I destroy everyone.
That I think the world will be watching very closely in the next few hours. Once the closed-door meeting happens, once the business concludes, there are plans for both gentlemen to walk out to a stage and
Let's see something in his mouth.
Press conference. That will be newsworthy. The last time they did that was in Helsinki in 2018, John. It was a press conference that had major reverberations domestically for the president, who has long been frustrated by U.S. intelligence conclusions that Russia did interfere in the 2016 election to hurt his then opponent, Hillary Clinton, and ultimately to benefit him. He has recently brought that up all over again. At that time, remember, he said he took Vladimir Putin's word. And that had big reverberations. So there are high expectations, not just for the people of Ukraine today, the cost of this war and what might come out of the meetings, but this is going to have major impact. And Nancy Cordes is there waiting hours in advance of that. Nancy, if things don't go well in this room,
Has Nancy Pelosi?
two podiums set up?
If things don't go well in these meetings, Margaret, I think one of these two podiums is going to be moved off the stage. I'm just going to move to the side so you can see how things are set up right now, however. You do see
Of course, I have 30 degrees in my room.
Piece that was also in the
30 degrees is very warm. The hottest summer in history of hottest summer.
That both men will stand at those podiums once these meetings have wrapped up. What will have to happen between now and then in order for that to take place, President Trump has said, is a sign that Putin is ready for peace. More specifically, that he either agrees to a ceasefire in these talks today or shows significant progress in being willing to accept a ceasefire. For the past several years, his demands in exchange for
Folks, you can talk a lot, but
have been very long.
If you make aftermath is called special calculation after everything is done, or after this event, you can finally then you can see say if it what this event has bring to the table. I think it brings nothing.
Weaponry. He wants Ukraine's military to be scaled back. He'd even like to see a new government in Ukraine that is more friendly to Russia. In other words, a puppet government. What we used to see in Ukraine. And so, does he move off of any of those positions today? That will really be the key to really determine whether we end up with two podiums and two presidents at the end of the day today.
Oh, make commercial. I have not the whole day, all time. Press conference later.
Taking place is they are getting down to brass tacks. The questions we've been analyzing are in fact now being discussed.
I'm also analyzing Mr. Dickerson.
We'll bring the press conference to you live when it happens. Until then, our
don't be
24/7, your local news, and tonight on CBS TV News. This has been a CBS News special report. I'm John Dickerson with Margaret Brennan in Anchorage, Alaska.
And I'm Mr. Dickerson. You. Yeah, folks, it was the whole special on CBS, my favorite broadcasting channel from the U.S., New York.
Putin officially coming face to face there in Alaska. They're meeting at Elmendorf-Richardson Air Force Base in Anchorage there. The topic of discussing Russia's almost 4-year war against Ukraine. This is now the 7th time those two leaders have met. It's the first time that Putin has stepped onto U.S. soil in a decade. In fact, had to get...
Yeah, you are lovely friends. Maybe I have to switch my language because I'm a German expert. I'm a German political expert, and I'm studying Harvard, also Massachusetts, also Boston, MIT.
And that is, of course, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Earlier this
so, of course, I'm...
as well as European allies to address fears.
I can speak every language.
Putin is perhaps stalling before continuing his advances. We have seen increased activity on that front just in the past couple of days as well. But of course, we're looking at pictures that just came in.
Come on, make a heart. Make a heart.
As well as President
love and also hate.
There, the two shaking
And love
very
and
warm,
hate.
greeting there before the two then stepped aside, and they are now behind closed doors having a meeting.
Are you kidding
We
me?
are joined here on set by Ambassador John Sullivan, the former U.S. ambassador to Russia. And Ambassador Sullivan, I know that you were watching what was happening with that meeting very closely. What stood out to you the most?
Well, the pageantry that we saw, the way this was scripted with the two presidential aircraft arriving, the red carpet,
The red
riding
carpet.
President Trump's limousine,
Was that expected to you?
that surprised me.
Gaming. Folks, let's gaming. Yeah, I'm so bored. I'm really bored.
That the American president is
I'm
showing to the
disappointed
Russian
because I thought they would talk about
it struck me as a
where they
marvel
were
to be
talking
worthy of an ally instead of a
really
country
hard
like Russian president
decision doing
considers the
also,
United States
and
its
not
enemy
also
for the
talking
best it's ever
bullshit.
seen. So that was a pretty extraordinary scene to see that.
An unusual scene, but also an unusual president and unusual set of circumstances that President Trump is dealing with here. Is this what it takes to move the needle on what's happening in the war?
Well, I think what President Trump would say in response to Putin is, look, I want to make an impression on Putin. I want to get results for the United States. So of course I'm going to treat him this way. You criticize me because you say that other leaders try to flatter me. Well, I'm flattering Putin because I want something from him, which is peace in Ukraine.
But still, at the end, you've heard the president saying he's going to know within within the first couple of minutes of this meeting.
Who's this guy?
Successful.
Anyway.
This is a long way to travel to find out if you're going to be done or in or out within just a couple of minutes.
Well, you know, it says a lot about how President Trump operates. He really trusts his gut instincts.
Gut instincts? I also gut
served
instincts.
As deputy secretary for 3 years. He really trusts his gut instincts, and I think he was speaking honestly when he told people that he trusts, when he makes an assessment about Putin, he trusts his gut and what it tells him about Putin's intentions.
Ambassador Sullivan, thank you very much. And we're going to turn things now back to Anchorage, Alaska, with Chief White House Correspondent Nancy Cordes joining us in that room where this joint press conference will take place. And Nancy, what has stood out to you about what we have seen so far?
Well, I think what stood out the most was this very friendly, warm welcome that Putin received on the tarmac. That, in and of itself, it is not a surprise, especially when it comes to President Trump, who has a long history with Putin and has often spoken of him very warmly, but it really contrasts with the way that most Western leaders have frankly shunned Putin ever since he invaded Ukraine 3.5 years ago. You even saw President Trump inviting Putin into his armored vehicle, the Beast, as it's known, as they headed to their first meeting location. Another thing that was notable, President Trump often will take questions from reporters in settings like the one we
I
saw
think
with
the whole
Putin sitting side
this
by
event
side,
is staged.
surrounded by some of their top foreign policy advisors. Not today. He and Putin
point
sat
is,
there essentially silently.
it will nothing change.
Cameras get a photo.
That's my opinion.
And then those
It's
distracting from the
distracting from the fact that the establishment is not
and the Russians at least are predicting that these talks could last for 6
capable
or
of
7 hours. That is not
freedom.
confirmed on the American
Also not
side.
peaceful,
But
peace is the
there are
other
at least
word
two
of
major
for
meetings scheduled, and there's a lot to
peace is
discuss before
not
the two men hold a press conference here in the room where I'm standing later
not real.
today.
Not real
If
peace.
these talks go well and President
Yeah, if you know the symbol,
senses that
the real
Putin is,
meaning of the
really, truly open
symbol, you
to
know, it
a
means
ceasefire
also
and an end to this
death.
war.
And Nancy, before we let you go, talking about that room behind you, what will you be looking out for during that press conference?
Yeah, I'm.
Well, President Putin doesn't take questions from journalists, especially Western journalists, very often. So he is
I think they make a lot of money with this.
barrage of
Of
questions
course,
about
this
his,
coverage. They
designation as a war criminal by
They,
the
I think they have
ICC,
exclusive rights
questions about
to
why he invaded a sovereign country to begin with,
Yeah.
whether it was worth it. After tens of thousands of Ukrainian lives have been lost, and by some estimates, 250,000 Russian lives. So there are a lot of questions that reporters, both
Yeah, folks, most of the Russians live are also young people.
here, as there are American journalists,
They
for President Putin if he
sacrifice
does indeed
young
join
life.
President Trump on this
Or
stage later today.
We know you'll be asking plenty of them. Nancy Cordes, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
And now let's bring in CBS News national security
Who's that?
reporter Sam Vinograd. Sam, we have
Oh,
learned that
Chloe
most
Kelly
of
is
the
also a
one-on-one
reporter
meeting
for
there has expanded
CBS.
to include other advisors. What did you think of the addition of these military advisors that weren't on the list to begin with?
I think overall, the fact that this has transitioned from a one-on-one meeting between President Trump and President Putin to an expanded meeting.
There's also saying nothing new
Rubio is a net
or
positive.
nothing that was already not said by someone else.
Means that he'll
Yeah,
have
this is
individuals
boring.
with expertise sitting next to him. And from a counterintelligence perspective, there will be more individuals who can help recount a comprehensive.
They constantly talk about the intelligence. Intelligence means, of course, the agencies like CIA have more information.
Overall, it is worth noting, Nancy, that as we continue to talk about the extremely warm welcome that President Trump offered to President Putin, we need to keep in mind that President Putin and Russia have ongoing attacks launched not just against Ukraine, but also against the United States. Reports very recently surfaced about additional Russian cyber attacks against U.S. infrastructure, both government infrastructure and private sector infrastructure. So President Trump is rolling out the red carpet and warmly greeting President Putin as he is
Maybe finally they will show us other
Is that something you think would come up in
some new footage? New footage?
Goes, or do you think there's just a
Please
sense
show
of,
me
okay,
new
let's put that aside and
footage.
let's focus on what's
I
happening
can't before I fall asleep.
List of bilateral issues which will more than likely come up in this lunch meeting that will follow the restricted meeting. The restricted meeting, just based upon the participants, will more than likely focus on Ukraine and perhaps a little bit on economic issues. In the expanded lunch meeting, when President and Howard Lutnick,
Maybe I should tell you something about Putin. Something else you didn't know or don't already not the facts.
On reducing the trade deficit, getting more
Who the fuck is that here?
States at a lower cost, and other economic issues. So President Putin will likely try to steer the conversation around to bilateral economic ties because he knows that it plays to President Trump's soft spots and because President Putin does want economic relief from U.S. sanctions and U.S. export controls.
All right, Sam Vinograd, thank you very much for joining us. And congressional
What the
correspondent,
fuck? Folks, what's going on here?
What can you talk to us? Tell us a little bit about the mood at the White House today as this meeting gets underway. Is there a sense of optimism?
Well, certainly. I think the hope is that.
Oh, come on. Don't make me sleep. Don't make me fall asleep. Yeah. So, folks, that's for short introducing in this.
In an interview before this summit got underway, that he won't be happy if he.
I'm really annoyed.
Without some form of a ceasefire. So.
Ceasefire my ass.
The expectation or the hope is that,
ultimately
the president can try to bring both of these
together,
Russia and Ukraine. That certainly has been a goal.
Not
only since he took office, but even on the campaign.
Ja, liebe Freunde, nochmal, I changed. I'm also talking in German. Try to speak to my other audience who don't understand or not capable of understanding. What I say ist natürlich, liebe Freunde, die Enttäuschung ist groß und ich glaube, dass sich da auch nichts tun wird. Ne? in der Hinsicht, dass die Herrschaft einfach nur, das ist einfach nur so ein, ja, vor allem für CBS Broadcasting, ne? Es ist ja auch bekannt, dass da irgendwelche Verträge laufen, wo CBS richtig Kohle verdient, ne? Mit so Sachen wie, wir bringen euch auch schlechte Nachrichten. Und ja, und das gehört auch dazu, so eine Events zu veranstalten, so politische Events halt, ne, wo Leute sich, große Spitzenpolitiker sich treffen, wo es angeblich auch um Frieden geht, liebe Freunde, aber es wird wohl nicht um Frieden gehen, denn diesen Frieden hätte man schon lange schließen können. Stattdessen, ne, also ich merke auch dieses US-amerikanische Gelaber hier. Das ist wirklich so, ne, dieses auch auf politisches Hardcore-Hardliner-Gelaber. Ne? Damit kann kein normaler Mensch was anfangen. Es wird sehr viele Sachen werden wiedergekaut, wiedergegeben. Es ist einfach nicht mehr lustig. Ja, es macht keinen Spaß. So.
He can't be trusted. Even if he agrees to a ceasefire stop, he can't be trusted. They will.
Ja, liebe Freunde, das hat die Bild-Zeitung aber auch schon geschrieben, dass sie, ne? Before I forget, I will give you a small reminder, Mr. Smart Guy. Ne? Wütend. Warum ist das Bild so verzerrt? Leck mich am Arsch hier. Ist doch für ein Arsch hier alles, ja. Bisschen das Bild kleiner machen.
CBS Mornings is clearly fun.
Money say dollar Jill's here to tell us what it means for you.
Clearly delish.
So what's on the menu today?
Clearly, CBS Mornings weekdays at 7 on CBS.
What happens when the world's best journalists come together?
Ja, es ist enttäuschend. Ne? Mit Journalismus hat das alles auch nichts mehr zu tun, was die da bringen. Ne? Es ist mehr so, wir bringen den Leuten halt Unterhaltung. Vor allem Unterhaltung ins Haus. Nur das, was die Menschen wissen dürfen, ja, was natürlich die Menschen nicht zu sehr belastet oder auch krank und depressiv macht, aber gleichzeitig so auf diesem Level hält, nicht zu viel erfahren, ne, und sonst steigt die Aggressivität und wir müssen noch mehr Gewalt das Ganze regeln. Ne. Und das ist leider das Enttäuschende und ne, so Menschen haben Hoffnung. Man nutzt ja auch die Hoffnung der Menschen dazu. Missbrauch. Hier passiert ein Missbrauch. Das kann man sich nicht angucken, ne? Kleine Pause, schaut mal vielleicht. Gibt es hier eine andere Übertragung auf YouTube? So. Hallo? CBS News, wir springen direkt rein, es geht weiter. High Stakes, ich kann es nicht mehr hören, Alter. Das ist irgendwie, hört sich beim Pokern an, High Stakes Pokern. Sounds like it is a gambling event, High Stakes Poker. It's of course it means leader meeting. Why they are not calling this leader meeting, Volks? Liebe Freunde und auch meine lieben deutschen Freunde, warum sagt man es nicht? Das ist das Treffen der Herrschaften, die darüber verhandeln, den Krieg zu beenden. I want the killing stop, ja.
Trump and Putin exited their planes at the exact same time. The red carpet was rolled out for President Putin's arrival, and the two leaders shook hands, followed by a military flyover.
Was? They shook hands? Unbelievable. Outstanding.
CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes joins us live from Anchorage. Nancy, we watched Trump and Putin step off their respective planes, then both get in the Beast, which is Trump's car.
Beast, ja. Merkwürdigerweise wird das auch häufiger erwähnt, ne, dass sich bei diesem sogenannten speziellen Flugzeug, also dieser Air Force One auch, glaube ich, oder? Der auch Beast genannt. Ist das richtig? Finde ich seltsam, weil ich ja dieser Wortgebrauch findet häufiger Verwendung. Also auch unterschwellig. Also wird verwendet, aber man weiß ja nicht so richtig, worum es geht. Ne? Also es wird einfach so erwähnt. Und die Leute denken, es geht ja auch um irgendeine andere Bestie. Außer genau diese Bestie. Habe ich schon mal gehört. The Beast, ja, es gibt sehr viele Filme, die The Beast heißen. Aber was ist das noch? Das verstehe ich nicht.
And about his prosecution of this war, his unprovoked invasion of Ukraine 3.5 years ago that has left so many Ukrainians and Russians dead. But they ignored those questions. Putin even tried to signal that he couldn't hear or understand them. The meetings are now underway. The Russians have indicated that they could last 6 or 7 hours. President Trump is not typically someone who likes to have meetings that last that long, but this is a very unusual situation, Liz. So
ich habe keinen Bock mehr, ja. Na Leute, ich finde es einfach nicht. Ich finde nichts zum Thema The Beast, also in Bezug auf ein Fluggerät der US Präsidenten.
That's correct. And let me step out of the way for a second so you can see that they're obviously still prepping for that press conference, but there are 2 podiums set up there right now. One for President Trump, one for President Putin. There's a sign that says "Pursuing Peace" as the backdrop. That is kind of the White House slogan for this summit. And so the question is, at the end of the day, will President Trump determine that Putin has shown a willingness to drop some of his demands and embrace a ceasefire at the very least, in which case that joint press conference probably will take place, or
es gibt ja auch The Beast, das Panzerfahrzeug nennt sich Beast. Oder eigentlich irgendwas vertauscht. Der US-Präsidenten. Ach so war das. Ach so. Ja, ist ja ähnlich. Es gibt aber auch einen Beast-Bomber. Pfefferspray versprühen und Blutreserven, das kann die Panzerlimousine der US-Präsidenten namens The Beast. Also jetzt sogar Blutreserven. Also ein Kühlschrank mit Blutreserven, mit der Blutgruppe des aktuellen Präsidenten. Aber ist ja auch lächerlich, oder? Also normalerweise, wenn ein Attentat passiert, dann muss er noch ins Krankenhaus gefahren werden. Also zuerst muss die Wunde versorgt werden und dann sollte man ja so schnellstmöglich in ein Krankenhaus gefahren werden, um dort eventuell diese Blutinfusion oder durchzuführen. Ich verstehe nicht. Ne? Also es ist wirklich so nach dem Motto, er ist rundum versorgt in diesem Auto.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Now, most of America's NATO allies are standing firmly with Zelensky, saying there should be no peace deal without Ukraine's involvement. This bring in CBS News digital international reporter Haley Ott joining us now from London. Haley, what do Ukraine and European allies hope comes from this meeting?
Well, everyone is hopeful in general that there'll be an end to the war, obviously, but not
die End to War. Ja, dieser Krieg ist ja nicht bei euch, ne? Der Krieg ist ja bei uns vor der Haustür, ihr Genies. Also was interessiert dann diese Herrschaften, ob der Krieg jetzt beendet wird oder nicht? Ne? Solange die davon profitieren, ist das denen doch scheißegal. Also ich weiß gar nicht, was diese Heuchelei bedeutet. Na, also das ist, Leute, das ist einfach lächerlich.
The fear is that Mr. Trump could be swayed by Putin. He said previously how much he likes him, and that he could end up making some sort of a concession or doing something.
Junge, was die da alles labern und reininterpretieren. Es ist unglaublich, was die da nicht alles reinlabern. Ne?
Ukraine and Russia, and many of those countries have increased their military spending because of this conflict that's going on.
Ja, liebe Freunde, ich glaube, ich werde diese Übertragung vorläufig beenden. Ich bin jetzt massiv enttäuscht, die mit ihren Prospectives. Ne?
Russia invaded Ukraine, and there's nothing deterring it necessarily from making a similar move.
Ja, alles irgendwelche Leute, die irgendwo studiert haben und das ist ja einfach Künstler dieser ganzen Wortverdrehungsgeschichte. Hier muss man so ganz dringend erwähnen, dass es natürlich aus der Perspektive der Europäer eher unvorteilhaft ist. Ne? Und ich könnte ja auch was anderes hier erzählen, was die Leute noch nicht wissen. Ne? Weil wie gesagt, Deutschland ist ja der Leader der Europäischen Union, unter anderem aber auch müssen wir dafür sorgen, dass der Laden läuft. Ja, und das kostet uns auch enorm viel Geld. Und das ruiniert auch dieses Land. Das heißt, wenn dieser Krieg jemals beendet wird, noch in diesem Jahrzehnt, dann sind das wieder mit Trilliarden Schulden.
If Russia manages to hold those gains, could threaten some of Ukraine's supply lines and potentially Ukraine's hold on the city of Kramatorsk. So that is
also ganz ehrlich, ich weiß es nicht, was die da machen. Ich habe keine Ahnung. Es ist ja nicht kein Krieg in dem Sinne, dass wir irgendwie, dass Europa sich ein Kuchen, dieses Stück von irgendwas sichern könnte. Ne? Das wird doch sowieso alles über die USA oder mit den USA diskutiert. So, und wenn überhaupt, dann haben die damit zu reden. Ja, was passiert mit welchen Gebietsansprüchen, wer bekommt wer ist berechtigt, daran zu verdienen. Das ist einfach. Es geht ja auch darum, dass Leute sich ins gemachte Nest setzen, ne, wie so ein Greichen, der sich da irgendwo in der Ukraine dieses Nest reingesetzt hat, wo er eher für einen Stromversorger tätig ist. Und Stromversorgung weiß man, wie bei der Deutschen Bahn. Ne? Das Geld fließt immer. So, man kann ja Schulden so viel machen, wie man möchte. Und das ist einfach, Leute, das ist einfach lächerlich. Also, das ganze Gelaber bringt niemanden voran. Was ich interessant finde, dass da keiner jetzt irgendwas gesagt hat. Ne? Also quasi so, es war jetzt irgendwie nur für Leute, also für die Presse, damit die ein paar schöne Bildchen machen. Ne, und dann geht es ja quasi dann erst zum nächsten Teil, zum nächsten. Ja. Was labert die immer, Frankly? Was? Friendly Borders? Oder ich weiß verstanden.
And what Putin is hoping to gain from these talks.
Yeah, so the
press conference later on this evening, presumably after those meetings are done, but that's kind of up in the air too, right?
That's correct. And let me step out of the way for a second so you can see.
A statement put relations if Russia manages to hold those gains, could threaten some of Ukraine's supply lines and potentially Ukraine's hold on the city of Kramatorsk. So that is potentially very significant. In terms of Russia's goals for these talks, experts I've spoken to call them high risk for Putin. A blow up between him and Mr. Trump could be very bad for him. So these talks, maybe one goal is to try to tip the president into making an agreement that is in Putin's favor. And a Kremlin aide said earlier this week that one thing Russia was looking for was closer economic ties with the United States. So potentially there's that as well. But it's important to remember that while Putin has said he wants peace, Russia invaded Ukraine. Putin has refused an offer of a ceasefire before, which was brokered by the U.S. and which Ukraine agreed to. And Putin fundamentally believes Ukraine should not be its own country, that it should be part of Russia. So experts say that if the war ends now, unless there are real security guarantees for Ukraine, there's nothing stopping Putin from starting up the war again in the future.
Hey, Leon, thank you so much. Live us from
Ja, sieht nicht gut aus, ne? Das heißt, sie können auch, der ist ja gar nicht bereit, so ohne weiteres einen Vertrag, so ein Friedensabkommen zu unterzeichnen, ne? Weil das wäre ja die einzige Garantie, dass es Frieden gibt, ne? Leute, das ist doch lächerlich. Die reden da die ganze Zeit um irgendeinen heißen Brei und man merkt einfach, es ist so unter dem Radar, das, was hier versteht, ne, oder nicht versteht, was immer wiederholt wird. Ja, man soll ihm nicht trauen. Und ja, es ist ja auch Sache von Europa, diese Sache dann für sich zu regeln. Ne?
I want to talk about the significance of these two leaders in Alaska. Now, remember, Alaska used to be part of Russia. I'm curious, does the choice of location...
Ja, liebe Freunde, es ist schwierig zu sagen. Also,
that, frankly, borders can change.
It actually might, and I think that is one. What was it that the two leaders discussed together with their team members?
I want to talk about the significance of these two leaders in Alaska. Now, remember, Alaska used to be part of Russia. I'm curious, does the choice of location for this summit only support Russia's argument that, frankly, borders can change?
It actually might, and I think that is one of the ideas, perhaps tongue-in-cheek, that Vladimir Putin may actually
dieses Gelaber.
during his meeting with...
So, weiter geht's. Folks, let's jump forward. I can see a woman talking, or I can't hear anyway. It's annoying. I want to hear Mr. Dickerson talking. Lieber Herr Jesus.
Rather diplomatic, because obviously there have been a lot of conversations in Washington, as well as in Brussels, about China supporting the Russians. So they have to be very cautious in terms of what it is that they say.
Imagine being able to build anything.
What the fuck? I don't want to see this advertise. Fuck you.
Rhetoric, saying that it is very important to China that peace be achieved, and whatever the Chinese side can do, whatever Beijing can do,
nothing happens at all. Yeah. You're constantly talking and constantly fooling people.
Is what happens thereafter.
No, it goes like how many years the war lasted like forever.
They will try to stand to the side a little bit in order to not necessarily
be
dragged into
if you
because right now it's very much
an employee
as a US
relationship
bilateral meeting, and I think that
is like, folks, someone is talking to you and
seen by some as
your employee,
particularly the teams on both
employer,
sides that are present. There are going to be more business conversations.
It's making you promises, and they know that nothing changed at all, because it's also a matter of money, a fact of business deals. Now, folks, if no one knows the true, the facts, behind the curtain.
CBS News 24/7.
If people don't know the facts that matters, no, and all constantly talking about, oh, we want peace, and oh, we want this, and we want that, and people are tired, yeah, so like falling asleep and don't want to hear about this. No? And then they tell you this, they show you the special, like prisons for or special.
CBS Evening News.
They bring you the news for folks, yeah, who's sitting in front of TV, yeah, and dreaming. But you can't say it's live, because if you hear what happens in USA, and you can't barely, as you can't be safe if you go outside your house, and yeah, you go shopping and you get killed incidentally by shootout. Someone is you can't say you are living safe in this state, or regardless how many ICE agents you have, or the police or whatever, yeah, Homeland Security and FBI and what else, yeah. Yeah, this, I think the standard of delivering information is of course high quality standard. No, you have not the restriction like in Germany. Yeah, if you watch the news in Germany, it's like Germany is crawling on the floor and get fucked by by other world leaders. Yeah, and they are not allowed to be like to have military influence on anything. Yeah, folks, that's a ridiculous fact. Yeah, I'm not Nazi in any way. It's not my. It's ridiculous to charge someone because I have an opinion. Opinion is not the standard other people think. The political correctness standard. Yeah, and this is ridiculous.
Listen to Murder in the Orange Grove, the trouble case.
Yeah, and so at least if I watch this news, I can be more USA for you, as well. Okay, I've lost. I'm lost in translation.
Read wherever you get your podcasts.
Be in the know, even when you're on the go.
Yeah, it's ridiculous because I feel as a citizen of Germany, I feel like trash. Yeah, and I have no connection to the politics. Yeah, also I can't, whatever they bring on the table is like, it's,
You can use at the grocery store.
Better mornings start better days.
Look good, feel good, you do good. That's right.
Listen to CBS Mornings on the Go on Apple Podcasts.
What happens when the world's best journalists come together?
Yeah, what happens when the best journalists come together, I can say you immediately. Better than what happens when German journalists come together.
Of America. We're retired and this is our paradise. Now let's go.
You get the stories of America.
Stories of America.
The all-new CBS Evening News.
If you compare, yeah, the devastating flood in Texas, also the water catastrophic event, a flood catastrophe event, is like they even show the people like heroes. They were you saw. Many people help each other, and in Germany it was possible to show make similar This is ridiculous. No, this is ridiculous. I live in a country. You can say my life is completely worthless. Yeah, and even that, that's not the only fact. Yeah, because they're using me as like the toilet paper. No? And they also try to charge me if I say something against the system. That's for me is not acceptable. No? You can take whatever law you can take law. Yeah, whatever you want. Or which law or something like there are special laws, European citizenship laws or what else? I don't know. This Völkerrecht law. Yeah, it's calling Völkerrecht, and this is for me. It's not understand. I can't understand.
Vladimir Putin meeting face to face at a summit in Alaska. Now, in addition to discussing the war in Ukraine, Putin suggested yesterday that he and President Trump could discuss a new nuclear deal between the two nations. I want to bring in CBS.
It's international law.
Watson, Ellie, great to see you. Set the stage for us for a minute here.
It's for international law, and I don't see there is.
The U.S. and Russia have the largest number of nuclear weapons.
Oh, the next girl is talking. A woman or a female, what else?
150 of those at a time.
Yeah, it's like they take every available person who is female in this stuff. And every
The U.S. can be on top of intercontinental ballistic.
Rakovac is showing how the nuclear warhead inventories.
Or on Air Force bombers like the B-2s, which one of them is
Are you kidding me?
over at the summit in Alaska.
Now, of course, they have a lot of rockets. Yeah, as ballistics missiles. Ballistics missiles who explode when they hit on something. They hit their target. So, what's the point showing us that again? It's like showing, measuring the dicks.
Per year, but those inspections were suspended.
How is a bigger dick?
By the pandemic in 2020 and then by Russia in 2023 because of its war in Ukraine. The treaty itself, the New START treaty, is set to completely expire in February, which is just over 5 months from now.
So what are the key sticking points when it comes to the possibility of a future agreement between these two countries?
President Trump was asked about this earlier
nice to compare.
Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
We have restrictions and they have restrictions, as you know, on nuclear. That's not an agreement you want expiring. We're starting to work on that, but that is a big problem for the world.
Oh, yeah, it's a big problem.
That's a big problem.
Volkswirt,
Trump sounds like he wants a deal here, but an agreement of that
sounds like he wants a deal here.
Preceded by extensive talks, and between the pandemic and the war in Ukraine, those talks haven't really been happening.
And
now both
in the
sides
end
have
of the
another
day,
factor to consider, which is
there is a well-known
by China.
Wisdom. The wisdom of the day is, in the end, when the day is over, and there is nothing. They bring nothing on the table that brings the Ukrainian or also the European people peace, and not peace, freedom. Or relief, like your J.D. Vance talking about relief of hope to live not a better life, but more a life you can call less. You have less problems. No. So it's at the end of the day it will
It's the most popular F word in Washington. Fraud.
Is it true
Fraud.
that the Social Security number of
Fraud.
every single American is available for sale on the dark web?
An eye-opening 60 Minutes report.
That's chilling.
It's time for 60 Minutes.
Worries. The folks worries is the right word for all the problems. Other word for problems is worries. Worries. Don't worry. Be happy.
Finishing this is the only thing that's important to me. Either way, the truth is coming out.
So, folks, that's for today. It's almost 60 minutes I have a recording. And this makes no progress here. Who the hell are you? I'm evil. What's Medlock? I know Medlock is also a well-known attorney, yeah, from TV show.
CBS Fall. Sunday morning, we hail a driverless taxi. Plus millionaire Barry Diller's revealing new memoir. And when trash becomes art, this Sunday morning.
Folks, when trash becomes art, this is also my specialty. Yeah, so this is a good ending for my show. If you watch trash, and this is also art, you can also watch my shows. It's the best trash you can watch on YouTube.
Politics isn't a game. When do consumers actually get to touch and feel a difference in their lives? Politics is about policy. So you would encourage Democrats to work with Donald Trump on an issue like healthcare? I'm a voracious consumer of information, and I'm impatient. I don't like to be spun. Do you know if there are active terrorists?
Oh, folks, I have a good another fact here I have is something. If you bring something to an end, yeah, to an end, like you want to make a contract and should be close the contract. It's also called diploma. Diploma comes from diploma, and it means something, brings something to an end. And this should be a successful end for every side, folks. I think this is a really good ending for my show for today. I wish you have a nice weekend, and hopefully watch my other shows and like them, and you will hear me next time. I hope so. Goodbye, folks. Auf Wiedersehen, liebe Freunde.